There's some exciting news about the Las Vegas Raiders and their plans for the quarterback position. With the team signing Pete Carroll, rumors started flying about the possibility of him reuniting with his former quarterback from the Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson. At first it was just speculation, but now NFL insider Ian Rappaport has shared some interesting insights. Here's what he had to say. Pete Carroll, the gum-chewing coach who's as energetic as ever at 73, faces a big decision at quarterback. The Raiders still need someone for the position, and one of Carroll's good friends happens to be Russell Wilson, the current quarterback for the Denver Broncos. My understanding is that Wilson wanted to play for the Raiders last year, but it didn't happen. Now the idea of Wilson joining the Raiders could come up again. This report makes things even more intriguing. It seems Russell Wilson might still be interested in joining the Silver and Black. Ian Rappaport also pointed out that Wilson wanted to join the Raiders last season, but the move didn't work out. Even during Wilson's last years with Seattle, there were always trade rumors linking him to the Raiders. It seems the Raiders have been on his radar for a while. With Pete Carroll now coaching the team, the chances of Wilson joining have definitely increased. Yesterday, I talked about this possibility and wondered what caused the fallout between Wilson and Carroll when Wilson was traded to the Denver Broncos. Many believed there was tension between Wilson, Carroll, and Seahawks general manager John Schneider. But now it seems those issues may have been exaggerated or they've since made peace. According to Ian Rappaport, Carroll and Wilson still have a strong personal relationship. As exciting as this sounds, I'm not sure how I feel about it just yet. Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson had great success in Seattle, but would it work here? Let's see how this plays out. Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson had a lot of success together, but that was over 10 years ago when they won a Super Bowl and appeared in back-to-back championships. In the NFL, a decade is a long time. You could argue that both Carroll and Wilson are past their prime. That's why I'm not sure this would be the best match. At this point in Wilson's career, I don't think he's capable of making the Raiders a true contender in the AFC. However, he could serve as a bridge quarterback. He could start for 1 or 2 seasons while the team drafts and develops a young quarterback. In that sense, Wilson might make sense for the Raiders. The big question is, what will Wilson's market look like? Last season would have been a great time to try out the Russell Wilson experiment. The Raiders could have signed him for a veteran minimum contract since the Denver Broncos were still covering most of his salary. But now, Wilson is an unrestricted free agent, and veteran quarterbacks today are commanding contracts in the range of $35 to $40 million per year. At the very least, I'd expect a deal for Wilson to look something like 2 years at $30 million per year. But there's a good chance he could get more than that if the market favors him. Realistically, the teams likely to show interest in Wilson are the Raiders and possibly the Pittsburgh Steelers. At 36 years old, Wilson's best years are clearly behind him, but he's still shown he can be a solid starting quarterback. Let's look at his recent stats. Last season, Wilson played 11 games with the Steelers, throwing 16 touchdown passes and only 5 interceptions. The year before with the Broncos, he had around 3,500 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. These numbers prove he can still be productive. At the very least, Wilson provides some stability at quarterback. With Pete Carroll now signed to a 3-year contract as head coach, it does make you wonder if this reunion is part of the bigger plan. The Raiders seem to understand that Pete Carroll doesn't have a long coaching window due to his age. They'll want to see clear progress within a short period. Carroll will need to show improvement as early as year 1, proving that the team can be a legitimate contender in the competitive AFC. It's still early in the offseason, and many things can change. However, I wouldn't be surprised if Carroll could turn this team from last season's 4-win disappointment into a 7 or 8-win team fighting for a playoff spot. For that to happen, though, the Raiders will need a reliable quarterback. Last season's quarterback situation was chaotic. The team started with Garoppolo, then switched to Aiden O'Connell and dealt with injuries along the way. In total, 3 or 4 different quarterbacks suited up during the season. That instability can't happen again. With Pete Carroll now in charge, It's unclear what he thinks of Aiden O'Connell. Realistically, most new coaches won't fully trust an unproven quarterback. It's likely the Raiders will look for a veteran quarterback in free agency as a bridge option. Russell Wilson seems like a strong possibility, especially with his connection to Carroll. Another name to watch is Geno Smith. Depending on the Seahawks' plans, they might consider trading or even releasing him to save cap space. If that happens, Smith could also be a potential fit for the Raiders. Personally, I'm not thrilled about the idea of Wilson joining the Raiders. At best, he would serve as a bridge quarterback, offering 1 or 2 solid seasons. But this approach only makes sense if the Raiders draft a young quarterback to develop behind him. Moving into the 2025 season, the biggest challenge for Pete Carroll and this offense will be improving the running game. The Raiders need to figure out who their offensive coordinator will be and how they'll build a consistent rushing attack. Fortunately, there's some good news. This year's draft has a strong class of interior offensive linemen, and the Raiders have plenty of cap space to spend in free agency. The draft is also loaded with talented running backs, so there's no reason why the team can't bring in a young, hungry, and skilled player for the backfield. By adding a couple of solid pieces to the offensive line and drafting a strong running back, the Raiders can build a reliable running game, which will be crucial for their success. Russell Wilson thrives in play-action plays, so it will be interesting to see who Pete Carroll chooses as the offensive coordinator. Will he bring in someone new, like a younger, fresh mind, or will he stick to people he's worked with in the past? Some possible names could be Shane Waldron, who was Wilson's offensive coordinator in his last season with Seattle, or Darrell Bevell, who held the same role earlier in Wilson's career. However, it's worth noting that Carroll fired Bevell after the 2017 season, so it's unclear if that reunion would make sense. Whoever Carroll chooses as offensive coordinator will play a huge role in how successful the Raiders' offense will be next season. For now, the idea of Russell Wilson joining the Raiders feels like a real possibility. But what do you think, Raider Nation? Would Russell Wilson be a good fit for the Silver and Black? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your opinions. That's all for today's video. If you're new to the channel and enjoy Raiders-related content like this, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.